our first order of business tonight is to elect the board chair. Are there any nominations? Tony?
I nominate Tim Smith.
Second.
Second. Any other nominations? All right. All those in favor of Tim, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
We skipped over the pledge, so why don't we
sorry.
stand and say
Thanks.
the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty, so the next order of business would be to solicit a nomination for a vice chair. I know Peter had expressed to me an interest in filling that role again. Is there a nomination?
Nominate Peter Stone.
I'll second. Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of electing Peter as vice chair of the board, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next looking for someone to nominate a clerk of the board. I know in just emailing with Tara, she's in Florida right now, but she did express an interest in remaining in the role of being clerk of the board. I'll nominate Tara. Nominate Tara?
Second.
Second. Are there any other nominations for a person to be clerk of the board? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the clerk being Tara, please say aye.
Aye.
All righty. And we're also going to reorganize and do our committees as well. Do you have a list of the current committees?
I do.
Okay. We've done a chair, a vice chair, and a clerk. Now let's talk about forming our committees. And anyone can be on any committee. Certainly, we encourage board members to be on one or two committees, but you can be on as many committees as you'd like. So we'll start with policy. Currently, we have Tanya, Tony, Julie, and myself. Of those people I've mentioned, are you interested in remaining? And is there anyone else who would like to be on the policy committee?
Before we continue with that,
Sure.
do any of these committees meet at the same times?
Yes, policy and building and grounds meet at the same time. The board chair, we usually just put in all of the committees because they move back and forth. But yes, those two meet at the same time.
Julie,
I'm staying. It's fine.
you stayed on policy? Tony, you raised your hand? Tanya is not online?
She keeps
Yeah,
getting.
sorry, I just had to call in. But I'm fine staying on policy.
Okay. Anyone else interested in being on policy? I know we're losing Mike. He was on policy previous, so. Okay, and if you change your mind at any time, just let Brooke know and we can add you to that committee. All right, so finance, I know Tara had mentioned staying on that committee.
I'll stay on that one too.
Julie is going to stay. I'll stay. Glenn, Finance Committee.
I would like to stay.
I'll stay. Tim, this is Becca.
Okay, I got Chris and Becca.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we just actually take a quick pause? We do have two new board members joining us here. I just wanted to maybe have them identify themselves and just introduce themselves. Christina Ryan from Hubbardton.
Yeah. So my name's Christina. I have two kids at Castleton Elementary. I am self-employed as a graphic designer, so I don't know. I went to Mill River Union High School and Wallingford Elementary.
Okay. And Chris?
I'm Chris Stanton. I live here in Fairhaven. I retired 2 years ago from teaching in the district.
Okay. Well, welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us. Do you have any questions about just our organization and the different committees here as we're kind of divvying them up?
Well, what committee do you need members on?
Well, we could use a member on policy that has a vacancy. Everyone is certainly invited to participate in finance, especially around budget planning time. Buildings and grounds has been a pretty important committee of late with just some of the deferred maintenance items that we've been addressing, and certainly the middle school coming on board over the summer and next year. Teacher negotiations, we'd probably like to keep mostly static. We're in the middle of a negotiation session right now that's not resolved. And then support staff negotiation is another committee as well. So,
I could do buildings and grounds if you.
okay. So let's move on to that then. Buildings and grounds, Tanya, Tara, Patty, Beaumont, Peter, John,
Yeah, I'll stay.
Rick, Becca. You're all good at staying
I'll
on buildings
stay.
and grounds?
Becca.
You writing these down?
Yep, I got them. You don't have to worry about it.
But remember, everybody's invited to every
Yes.
meeting. You don't have to be on that committee to come to the meeting. A lot of us just go to finance. Go to buildings.
You got Chris volunteering for the buildings
Yep.
and grounds, okay? All right, executive committee is generally one person from each town, and typically we're called to action when there are issues such as Stafford, is that?
No, Stafford's a different thing. I mean, it could be, well, my evaluation typically, it could be, an emergency situation that I just need a quick pulse on something. It's not used very often.
Okay. So if we just stay with the status quo, it'd be Peter from Morwell, Becca from Benson, Rick from Fairhaven, myself, Castleton, and we would have vacancies from Hubbardton.
I would like to be on that. Okay.
Okay. And then West Haven, our only member would be Tanya. Last year we had Angie, but she had resigned
Yeah.
during the year.
Yeah, I think I stepped into her role, but we haven't met yet. This is Tanya.
Okay.
You can stay there.
All right, so that fills us out. And as we discussed at a prior meeting, we are going to be starting the process with Brooks' evaluation. So I'll be coordinating with those members on the evaluation committee to start that process. Teachers negotiation, myself, Patty, Glenn, Christine, Becca, and Rick.
I'd like to stay, Becca.
I'd definitely like to stay.
Support staff, I don't think we'll be meeting until probably next fall, right?
Right.
Okay. So the current people on the support staff negotiation team would be Rebecca, Glenn, Rick, and myself.
I'll join support staff.
All right, you got that for Tony?
I'd like to stay, Becca.
Becca will stay. And then Stafford Advisory Board, Rick, you're our representative, you're okay staying in that?
That's the last meeting, but
I'm
Okay.
willing to help out, Rick, if you need help going. That's something I'm interested in too. So if
Can
you
there
need
be
an
two?
alternate.
No, there can't be two, but I mean, I can ask if there can be an alternate.
Okay. So Rick, and then if needed, as required, Julie can be the alternate? Okay.
And then we need, it's not on this list, but sick bank. Becca's the current sick bank rep.
Okay.
I'll stay. I'm happy to do it.
Okay. All right, so we're nearly reorganized. A couple other things that we need to talk about is the daytime and location of meetings, as well as the newspaper of record. And do those need to be in the form of motions and whatnot, or just general?
Yeah, they should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently, we're the second and fourth Monday of every month, with exceptions being holidays, breaks, and other unforeseen circumstances at 6:30 PM. If everyone's cool with that, someone could make a motion to that effect.
Make a motion, we hold our meetings the second, and fourth Monday at 6:30, except for on holidays and weekends. There
Second.
wouldn't be a weekend.
Right.
Gonna put that in there.
All right. Any further discussion on the date and time of meetings? And location, we'll just continue to rotate.
Yeah.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next, an official newspaper of record. I believe currently it's the Rutland Herald.
And then we use the Addison Independent too to run ads and,
So
Yeah.
those two papers
Yep.
primarily. Looking for a motion to,
Motion to have the Rutland Herald and the Addison newspaper.
okay.
Second.
Any other suggestions, questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the Rutland Herald and Addison Independent as the newspaper of record, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, just some more housekeeping items. Included in our packet was the oath for new and returning members. So if you've not had that notarized and filled it out, please do so in a timely manner. Brooke, I think you've got them all, or?
yeah, and I'm collecting the code of ethics and contact forms too.
Okay, and then again, yep. the
And I have
code-
extras.
The code of ethics form just needs to be signed annually, along with updating your contact information for central office. If that's not been done, please get that to Brooke as soon as you can.
Oh, did we have to take it again?
No, only if you were just reelected.
Thank you.
Tim,
Yes.
I just mentioned at the next meeting that for new board members, I'll bring the paperwork.
We did the I-9s
Oh, you
last
did them
week.
already? Oh,
Right.
perfect. Okay,
I
sorry.
think so, yep.
I-9s were done. You're all set.
Yep.
And then just one other thing that's really related is item number 9 on the agenda, the Slate Valley Bylaws, is really just kind of a summary of our purpose, our membership, meetings agenda, et cetera. So I would just encourage you to give that a quick skim. No action really required other than just familiarizing yourself with our bylaws. I guess I do need to sign it. No, do I need to sign it?
No, that was when it was adopted.
Okay, all right.
We do have a short little video on the board responsibilities.
Sure, you can cue that up.
5 minutes.
I have a quick question. Is there currently a member on the strategic planning?
I think I have, there's some board members that are part of the parent group. I think I have your name on there. We just haven't had a meeting yet. Why do I have your, I do, no. I have Tanya, Christine, Rebecca, Tim. I can put you on that group.
That'd be
We
great.
just haven't had a meeting yet.
Okay.
To help define the scope of the school board job and offer best practices on how to go about accomplishing it. We've identified 6 domains as part of the essential work of Vermont school boards, all of which are really critical to doing the job and all happen concurrently. So they're really interdependent. And while we list them and tend to talk about them in this particular order, they really do all influence each other. What you're looking at here is a screenshot of the essential work of school boards toolkit from our website. The toolkit is a distillation of all the key references and tasks for good governance in each of the 6 main areas of school board work. A good place to start the conversation is talking about engaging the community and establishing a vision overview, because everything else really hinges on that vision. The board is in the strongest position when it is engaged with the community, clear in its vision for education, and unified in its direction. So the board should develop structured and ongoing opportunities for the community to define and refine the vision for the school district. Once the vision is in place, the board then takes on the responsibility for monitoring progress and making policy and budgetary decisions to achieve the vision. To keep the community engaged in the ongoing work of the district, including current successes and challenges, the board must seek to engage community stakeholders in a variety of settings and contexts. The development and maintenance of school district policies is the central job of the school board. The board must ensure the district not only achieves educational results for students, but does so in a manner that complies with legal requirements and meets community expectations. The board does this by setting policies that articulate the values and concerns of the board as trustees of the school district. Once the board has established policy, it delegates the authority to further interpret the policy to the administration, which is often done through written procedures. The board should regularly monitor for policy compliance. After all, if it's important enough to be addressed in policy, it must be monitored. Perhaps the most important decision a board makes is to hire a qualified superintendent to lead and manage education through the district or supervisory union. Boards provide oversight. They do not manage day-to-day operations of a school system. Vermont law designates the superintendent as the chief executive officer for the supervisory union or district. As the CEO, the superintendent is accountable for the operations of the entire school system. To employ a well-qualified and capable superintendent, the board needs to be in a position to assure mutual accountability between the board and the superintendent. The board is accountable to provide clear direction and set priorities for the superintendent. And the superintendent is then accountable to deliver on those priorities of the board. Financial resources support the delivery of education, so the board has an important role in making sure the education system has adequate resources to achieve its mission, and also in providing high-level financial oversight to make sure resources are properly managed on behalf of taxpayers. The board needs to devote time each year to establishing the importance of its financial oversight responsibility and to conveying the importance of careful management of resources by all staff in the supervisory unit or district. Managing financial resources responsibly is foundational to achieving the educational mission. You've heard me mention monitoring and oversight as we've talked about some of these other domains. What it boils down to is that the board is accountable to the community to ensure that the district makes reasonable progress in achieving outcomes for students, and that the system operates in compliance with all policies, laws, and regulations. To meet this obligation, the board needs to monitor both these areas regularly. In order for administrators to be able to produce evidence related to these areas, the board must clearly identify the student learning outcomes and system operations outcomes it expects based on the board's vision, policy, strategic plans, and goals. Finally, don't forget that the school board is a public body trusted by the community to oversee the system of education for children in the school district. As elected officials, school board members need to act with integrity and adhere to the highest ethical standards. Lawful and effective operations are crucial to a strong school board. Effective operations are characterized by well-organized meetings with agendas that focus discussion and decision-making, engaged board members who have the information necessary to make informed decisions, and practices, protocols, and policies that are legally compliant. If any questions come up for you as you think about all of this or explore the toolkit on our website, please feel free to reach out. I'm Susan Holson, Director of Education Services at VSBA, and you can email me or call me with your questions or thoughts.
All right, Brooke, so I think we're reorganized, right?
We are.
All right, I didn't miss anything.
I don't think so.
All right, so before we get into the body of our agenda, the item 2D, the town meeting follow-up, I think it's just best if we maybe just shuffle that down into the number 8 area and just talk about that as a prelude to the budget discussions. So with that said, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda with that one modification.
So moved to approve.
Second?
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion on the agenda? All right, hearing nothing, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, next, looking for a motion to approve the minutes from February 14th.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Chris is a second. Any questions, discussion, or correction on those minutes? All right, hearing no discussion or corrections, all those in favor of approving the minutes from February 14th, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, moving on to public comment. I believe everyone in here tonight is a student or faculty member. Is there anyone online who has a public comment? If so, now is your time. Please unmute and identify yourself. No hands? Okay, no public comment this evening. Correspondence, I know Brooke shared some correspondence, feedback, about the town budget. We can just quickly summarize that under number 8. Is there any other correspondence outside of school budget matters?
No.
Okay. All right, Ben, I'll let you introduce the students here tonight. They have a presentation for us.
Yeah,
All right, let's see it.
thank you. Good evening. So I get to introduce 4 members of a newly formed athletic leadership committee, Isabella, Nick, Matt, and Sawyer, who've come to talk tonight a little bit about the vision, the goal, some of the resources they're looking to utilize to address issues like equity throughout the athletic programs. And it's really just a great opportunity to bring empowerment to our students and give them a voice across the school building in all areas. And Kate is really kind of heading this up, and I don't know if you want to add anything before we turn it over.
No, just myself and Kim Alexander have really tried to get this going, started late fall, early winter. So I'm gonna really just hand it over to these guys, let them talk about where we started, what we're doing now, and some goals for the future.
All right, I'll start with the introduction then. I'm Nick Carabino, a senior at Fairhaven. And so the Athletic Leadership Committee formed about a couple of months ago. We're just really we're trying to bring in athletes just to see how sports are going and how we think that the programs are doing, how different sport events are going, how can we bring more students in to different sports because they might not want to play all the varsity ones or the junior varsity ones that are available right now. So trying to get just honestly more participation within the whole community.
Sure, I'll go next. My name's Isabella Carrera. I'm a senior. And I'm going to talk to you about our goals and some of the things that we've incorporated recently into this club, being that it is so new. And our overarching goal, kind of like what Nick talked about, was just mainly incorporating a wider range of students to be participating more so in the realm of athletics within our school. Being that Fairhaven is such an athletically focused school, I'd say, we're working along the lines of sportsmanship and participation, but also incorporating our tradition as well. And that's something that we've worked on a lot recently. We've also incorporated some other resources that our school has to offer, such as the Stafford Technical Center, where we've integrated some of our classmates who are into digital design, and we've designed some t-shirt ideas. There is a little typo on it, but that is kind of something like that. Of course. We're also working to incorporate more clubs, which Matt and
Right, so my name's Matt. I'm a senior here at Fairhaven, and one of our jobs is to create and promote clubs. We're trying to get to a more diverse group of people to get them involved, not people necessarily that want to be involved with varsity sports and have the supervision and leadership of a coach, or like the heavy commitment that comes with varsity sports.
Yeah, I'll go. My name's Sawyer. I'm a junior here at Fairhaven. Some of the clubs that have already been recommended to Miss Alexander, we have boxing, lacrosse, volleyball. Those are just a few. And I think our goal, like we envision as a group, just being able to like go support those students that come support us during our varsity sports, and kind of give back to them, and like make, like Isabella said, an equal like community, and get more participation throughout the whole entire school.
One of the major things that we were given to work with in this group was the VPA equity grant. We look to utilize that in ways that we kind of described, and being that it's such a new group, we aren't 100% sure where our direction is with that. But one of the major things that we look to incorporate is just like introducing these clubs to the school and maybe touch a wider group of like diverse students who might be more interested in doing rock climbing than they are varsity football or stuff like that. That range of stuff.
Thanks, guys. Open up to some questions.
Yeah, I have a question. So 3 seniors and a junior, what's your plan to continue this? Because you 3 aren't going to be.
Yeah, so right now we do have, I'd say around 10 members. So, and it's basically split like 5 and 5. So there's about 5 seniors, 5 juniors right now.
Okay.
It was opened up to sophomores and freshmen. We just didn't have anyone turn out yet. So hopefully we get more participation as this goes along.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the goals for this year, towards the end of the year, is to talk about how to recruit, because I think we have a lot of people who are natural leaders, much like these 4 individuals. So really just trying to find that space where they can be leaders in other ways.
I think this group was also depicted from like captains of varsity teams as well, and just being that it is a new group, and that's been said a few times, but like looking forward, it's going to be recruited more so in a fashion of kids who want to make a difference more athletically instead of being super driven through varsity athletics.
So the goal is not to necessarily elevate these clubs to a varsity level. That's not the goal. It's just to provide more options for kids to participate in a club type environment.
Yeah, our motive is kind of to just integrate new opportunities that aren't super prevalent here, and potentially having that reached out more like statewide and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we want to get people who are in the school who aren't necessarily physically active, and we want to give them something that they have an interest in to get them physically active, to get them involved in something that brings them together as a team, as a family, and shows them that kind of togetherness that sports brings along.
So great ideas. I love this group. My curiosity is that lacrosse, for example, is a varsity sport in our state. So how does that, so I don't really understand. So if it's a club type of sport, or you're introducing it, but then let's say in a year, somebody said, there's lots of interest in lacrosse. We'd really love to have a lacrosse team. Do you see where my confusion is?
Definitely. And I think that's something we probably have to brainstorm. It might be something, if you get enough participation from kids, you can just inter-squad scrimmages or stuff like that, or whatever it may be. And maybe there's schools around the state who also have clubs and don't have a varsity sport with lacrosse. So we can play those schools or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with Sawyer. I think the biggest thing is participation, like getting the amount of people, like lacrosse runs the same time football does. Football and soccer, they take up a lot of players throughout our school. So participation for that club would be not as much as those varsity sports. So being able to field a whole team of athletes to go and play other schools would be difficult as of now. But the longer we have our club, the more interest we have, the more interest from other students we have, we possibly could make it a varsity sport.
Thank you.
I also think looking forward and being that like this group can do a lot of just growing in general, there could also just be some like transition between, if you're super interested in lacrosse, like you said, and you've done the group for a year, and you really want to move on and play like a varsity level lacrosse, there could be, I know you can go and transfer, or not transfer, but play for another school. We could just make that step a little bit more fluent, and just integrating that as well.
This is open 9 through 12th graders, or you're going to include the middle school grades too?
I think this is just 9 through 12 though, as of right now.
And nobody says you can't play lacrosse in the spring. I'm just saying, right? If you're gonna have a club, you could play year round. So you might want to, looking at the idea that if you're football, soccer, but you like lacrosse, there's no reason that you can't have a cross club in the spring too, or ultimate frisbee.
Alrighty, are there any other questions for the group? All right, guys, thanks so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have to unfortunately talk about the budget. Obviously, it did not pass by a very narrow margin, 9 votes or potentially 8 on the recount. As I mentioned, Brooke, myself, and Glenn had co-authored a letter that was published in a couple local papers, I think also on the Vermont Digger as well, just to solicit some feedback from the community, looking for reasons why people didn't vote or they didn't choose to support our budget. And as Brooke summarized the superintendent's report or the central office report, there are a lot of different reasons people did not support the budget, ranging from just simply forgetting to vote and exercising that constitutional right, people concerned about the cost and the cost of living and some of the geopolitical concerns that we see in our world today. On the opposite side of that, some people were disappointed that there were cuts at all and that we didn't make more investments in staffing and programming. So we're just in a situation now where it's really hard to make everyone happy. We could take an action tonight to cut spending, but that's going to potentially upset those people who voted no for the reason that they wanted to see more spending. So I guess at this point, I just wanted to open this up to general discussion and go around the room and talk to the board members and just listen if they've heard from their constituents or community members about why the budget was voted down and what they would like to see as the next steps or the next, the moves in terms of how we represent this to our community. So I guess I'll start on my left with Peter. Do you have any thoughts?
Before we go into opinions though, can I ask about this list?
Mm-hmm.
Is this in order of, is this in any
It's not
kind of
in
order?
any kind
It's
of
not in
order.
any kind of order.
No.
So there was no stronger position than another.
I would say the stronger position is that taxes are just too high.
Okay, so that's the one you kind of feel like you heard the most of.
The most,
Taxes
yes.
in general.
Or that they forgot to vote. And
Okay.
we also had 138 blank ballots where people did not turn the ballot over.
Which is where the budget was.
Correct.
And that could have
Right,
been
thank you.
deliberate too.
Well, it could have, except the whole back page was blank.
I see.
Okay, thank you.
So I tend to think it was accidental.
And I guess the question there is, must we have it double-sided? Could it be?
Can't
could
be
it-
2
the
sheets of
school-
paper.
Yeah,
I mean, that might be something to keep in mind.
Yeah, but the revote, they'll just be the two they'll just be the budget, so we won't have to worry about it then, and hopefully moving forward, we won't have to worry about that because the reason it was two-sided was due to COVID, because we didn't have the annual meeting from the floor. So, so hopefully that won't be an issue moving forward.
I was gonna say, or in the future, can we put the budget before board, voting for board positions? Because all of the-
I'd have to look and make sure that we can do, I mean, it depends on the.
Might be able to reorder like the transfer one. and-
Right, we might be able to reorder some of them, but some of them are prescribed.
Because on that ballot, the only thing that was on the front to vote on were board members.
Correct.
And then on the back, it was, for moderator, treasurer and stuff. So, I mean, those could still stay on the back, but if you move the budget to the front.
Yeah, I just don't know what the annual meeting, the way.
Paper
yeah.
the right way, or what's the front, you know what I mean?
We'll have to, but let's hope it's just not an issue. We don't have COVID to deal with next year, and we're all voting from the floor.
So Orwell's right here in the corner. What's Orwell got to say?
I only heard from one person that shouldn't keep taking money out like we are. And then I talked to 4 or 5 people that just didn't vote. Don't know why. One forgot, other one just never votes. And
were they parents? Kids in the system?
One was a parent, one was the staff, and the other, I don't know.
When you say keep taking money out, what does that mean?
We just keep cutting the budget. We don't add anything in for, we don't do anything for curriculum or anything like that. It's just, every time we turn around, we keep cutting our budget. We've cut our budget for how many years now?
5.
And it's, to some people, that's a no-no.
Thank you.
I had a number of people who felt that the budget was a slam dunk and they got time, so they were making tracks to get here for the basketball game instead of going to vote, but they felt that the budget was such a slam dunk that their vote wasn't going to count. And now they're upset that they, had their priorities that way.
I would say there's a lot of parents looking at the voter checklist who we are not getting to vote.
I mean, when I looked at that, it's, yeah.
And staff, we still have an issue with staff.
I mean, I would say that if we even had, I don't even think we were even in Orwell, even close to 20% of parents with kids in the school that actually get voted. I think it's less than that. So,
yeah.
And you're gonna, I mean, there's a core group that comes out every year to vote. And I think the vote is always no, just because things are expensive. They're not going down. And so they're there every year, and people with kids in the system just don't seem to get there to make their side. And I don't think it's just with us. I think that's kind of everywhere. Yeah.
John, anything else from Orwell?
So, well, the things I heard from people, the forgot to vote, forgot it was the day to vote, that type of thing. But then also coming back to what Peter said about, constantly cutting the budget. And one of the things we heard last year, whenever we did the in-person listening tours, people were concerned, we all know we have deferred maintenance and that type of thing. They were concerned that we were not taking care of that. And, I think if you look back at the comments that we brought forward, people said they'd be happy to pay more money if we're doing the maintenance. So like cutting money is not necessarily people's focus, as long as they're getting value for the money. Other than that, some of the other things too, I did read the comments that people made to you. And some of them kind of interested me, some were just political statements. Let's go there. But the other thing too is, okay, we just had a presentation, about students wanting to form a club, to have some club sports, those type of opportunities. That's great. I was a sports kid when I was in school. That's where I lived. You wouldn't have found me in band or drama or any of that kind of stuff. But we're not spending any money on that. Kids don't have opportunities for that here. I mean, if you look back, was it Tuesday, last week or Thursday, I forget which night at this point, the talent show. There's kids put a lot of effort into that. It was poorly attended, but then if you didn't have a kid that was in it, you probably didn't know about it. I think people are upset that we don't provide those kind of opportunities because, once you get out of high school, those kind of interests will take you farther than, playing sports unless you manage to get to, some type of, get a scholarship or the professional level. So I think, we need to put more focus on those type of activities, clubs, whether it be arts, band, and I didn't like that they had the realization that, we've got soccer going on, we've got football going on, there's not enough kids left to field a band or a club sport in the fall. And I know each of you got an email, from Dan Redondo. And if you read through that carefully, I think he hit it on the mark. That was well thought out, and well written. So I'll leave it at there for now.
Chris?
Over in Hubbardton, the people that I talked to did say that the thing about taxes being high, not so much that they understood that there was municipal tax separate from education tax, but just that, the taxes keep going up and they didn't want to pay higher taxes. Even though we had all these meetings, they were so poorly attended for, getting budget out there. We had the listening tours and we had the meeting here at the high school. There was most of the audience here at the high school was people that worked. They were the staff that were here more so than the people from the community. I didn't hear too much of anybody saying that they were upset about us cutting the budget at all. That was just more the opposite. I think that maybe in the people that I talked to, there were more retired people that were on a fixed income than people that were working.
So they didn't understand that it actually went down. They thought because of the way the warning was written that it went up.
Right.
We can't change that either.
I know that.
But
Trust me.
there is I'm involved in some stuff with some of the legislators to possibly change the way the warning's written
To get flexibility?
next year. Well, the new weighting study, it may not work with the current language, so there is some movement in that area, so.
Right, but that's
That's not gonna help us
no,
tonight.
no. But we do have, at the end of the year, there is some surplus in the budget. And so, every year people do see when they go to vote that, can we transfer this money into the maintenance, the capital budget for the next year? So, that's something to be thought about, that there is room to cut some things a little bit anyway.
Before I get to Chris, we'll just stick with Hubbardton. I guess, Christina, do you have any thoughts about what you'd like to see?
I have nothing to add. I have not spoken with anyone who voted yes or no. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. Chris, Stanton?
Well, just standing outside the polling place on the voting day, I did hear rumblings about taxes being too high, but I don't understand why the town budget passed and this did not. So.
About you, Rick from Fairhaven?
I haven't heard much comment at all myself. And I asked people about it. They really didn't say yes or no, and they weren't concerned. I don't know. I think it was a lot of people just not bothered voting.
Yeah.
They were complacent about it. Didn't think it was important their vote and thought it passed.
All right. Tony, any thoughts?
The only people I talked to, they called me and said, why did the budget not pass?
Yeah.
They were in shock that it did not pass. And of course, I said to them, I have no idea right now. And they were very, very surprised. So the people that I spoke with obviously had voted. Otherwise, they would have said something. But I was as flabbergasted as everybody else on this board, I'm sure.
Yeah, I thought we were going to.
Saw the results.
What about you, Julie?
So a couple of things. Number one, is it possible to share Dan Redondo's letter? It sounds like it was wonderful. And if it was board
He addressed it to Orwell and then I think me.
Oh, me.
And Brooke.
No,
So
it was
does that not
Jim
for
and
the
I-
board then?
Yeah, you can. I can forward every single email that I have, which is a lot.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if it's something that's well-written and something
Yeah.
that says a good point, it'd be nice if the rest of us could kind of
Yep.
hear it too, so
Yep.
that we all are on the
Yep.
same page with understanding.
I'm sorry, I thought y'all did get it.
No.
Yeah, no, thank you. And then secondly, so Chris, when the people say that they, upset that budget went up, do you know if those people received the mailings?
Yeah, I said, didn't you get the mailing? I had it right there. They said, yeah, but I don't know if they just didn't read it or didn't read it right.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times people scan stuff, or they're too busy and they go, yeah. And that's it. They don't really sit down and read all the numbers and whatever. But the way it was written on the ballot was kind of funky.
Well, then I'm thinking if we feel that way about the mailings, we might want to look at that if we're going to do another one, right? Make it maybe more obvious. Budget has gone down. Please read as to why, arrow.
Well, a lot
You know, or
of, a lot of
something.
these things are very specific and, you know, we're given a lot of information, but
I
maybe
agree.
it's too much information.
That's what I'm saying. I just think we need to look at that because if we're getting these comments like this, and I'm wondering like, what are we doing? We're doing mailings, which is probably the thing that people most touches the people. Our video meetings or our meetings in person with people, then that's getting better and has been better than it has in the past. I've seen 2 people in a meeting over my many years on the board. So I'm thinking we need to think about that. And Brooke, you did send an email. Again, do we need to be more direct the night before? Remember, tomorrow is voting day. Please vote. We are revoting. Like just, I don't know, our directness or how we're doing it instead of trying to explain.
Yeah, I mean, that's just to parents. I mean, we can certainly do that.
But we just said we don't have parents that are voting, right? So
Correct.
again, just the directness of our communication and how we're communicating, I think we just really need to think about. And since we don't have to maybe explain so much, maybe we're just pretty direct and to the point. So we might want to think about that. I had people who forgot to vote. I had nobody say it was too high or anything like that. It was mostly didn't think I needed to. Didn't think I needed to vote. And that was Fairhaven people as well as Castleton people that I heard.
But
that
history has shown us every year that.
I know.
There was no questions at town meeting day with that?
I was at town meeting day. There were no questions at town meeting day. They've totally gotten away at Castleton at talking at all about anything school oriented, since we're not sitting up front at a table. So we don't talk about it.
Okay.
So nope, nothing at town meeting.
Just to follow up on the mailing, I do agree that maybe it's a little bit too content heavy for something that you're picking up out of your mailbox and throwing in with a pile of mail. That, you know, there's a lot of great information on the website that, you know, that could be a teaser with just like the main information and then say, hey, if you're one of those people that wants the breakdown of the numbers, go to the website for that information.
Yeah, I was told by somebody it was too much, too complicated for them to read. I think you just to the budget and what we're spending, and if you want to look at other numbers, go to the website. Because if you want to look at the numbers, you'll go to the website.
Yeah.
That was it.
Bob Benson, had any comments?
I only heard a few right after I voted, so honestly, I didn't hear a whole lot, but it was more about apathy, about just, you know, it seems as though not only in Benson or, you know, Vermont, but we just have a very apathetic country right now. And obviously looking at the ballot when you have numerous positions that are just vacant, you know, so you're writing in positions, it never feels as though there's a commitment, is I think the way somebody put it toward me. So it's interesting to note the bullets that Brooke had put in the central office report, because 3 of them are like so specific. I have to say you're not voting a budget because you don't like proficiency-based grading. I, obviously have no idea who that individual is, but it would be interesting to, like, what do they know about proficiency-based grading? So.
All right, Becca, you have any comments online?
Yeah, I had quite a long discussion with individual. She had talked to a number of other people in town, and they didn't understand the numbers on the flyer. They didn't understand how there could be a $1.2 million savings, and then the flyer said $10,000 savings, so they decided to not vote for the budget. So it came down to too many numbers and not enough understanding. So I agree with, I'm sorry, I don't know your name yet, but the newest member saying less
Christina.
numbers on Christina, less
Yeah.
numbers on the flyer for people to really understand, just like flashes.
I think like children, adults too are having a shorter span of attention. So we have to kind of think like we're marketing towards teenagers.
All right, and Tanya, do you have any thoughts from West Haven?
I think I heard we had a good turnout in West Haven, and we had good volunteers there who definitely let us know to flip it over. My hunch is that that was really a big piece of it, the backside, because I feel like if people had an opinion and they filled out the front, they would have voted on the back. So I feel like, maybe there's more we can do to tell the people in all of the polling places to please make sure both sides are filled out next time if we're in this situation again. And also, I don't know if it's appropriate for teachers next time to talk to parents, not necessarily to say, we hope the budget passes even, but to say that these votes are razor thin and every time. I mean, it's been true for a few times now, and to encourage parents to vote. I think that might make a difference. That's all I have.
All righty.
So one other comment. So like, as we're talking, you said the budget's on the website. I'm on our website, I go to search, I type in budget, I get the budget results, and then I get things about budgeting, like home budgeting. If we're making people look for this stuff, they're not going to dig too deep.
The link was right on the top of our page. It's also.
It was until after the town meeting, after.
Right, so it was right there where
It
you
was.
went and you could click on it. Right now, it's just you click on the menu and click budget, but I can have Josh put it back up there with the new information, but it was right on the headline.
Yeah.
We adjusted it when we first changed the COVID mandate stuff for masking and everything to get that information pushed out on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also send the link out via social media. Yeah, so.
I guess, what's frustrating for me is for those people who are disappointed that we made cuts and didn't fund more programming, teachers, et cetera. Where have they been during the brainstorming, strategic budget forming process? I don't like the idea that they voted no because there's not enough spending. Where were they during this whole process to start speaking up for some of those programs that they wanted to see, in the budget? That's just frustrating for me.
Dan was here about.
Yeah, I know. Dan is certainly an exception. He
Yes.
participates and he's very involved with speaking up.
So one of our problems has always been communication, and we've tried to, fix it or enhance it with the, the in-person and then the Zoom listening tours.
Mhm.
But at most, I think we had like 14 people at one of them. And from what I've heard at meetings, no other town had that, any more than that.
We didn't have anybody.
We did when PEG TV videoed, we did have a lot of people that watched it on PEG TV. That stopped with COVID.
It's pegged.
But we send the
We do
recording
send a
to PEG
recording to PEG
TV,
TV.
so it's the same
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, PEG TV is the cable access channel in Rutland that you can get online where you can watch our board meetings and watch our committee, like you can watch things on there, like you can watch a lot of things on Rutland City board meetings.
That sounds like.
I know, right? That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
on the
Could be a
website
whole
anyway.
night on PEG TV.
When I've
But,
had
yeah,
trouble
so-
sleeping.
We did have people who used to watch that when we didn't have the virtual, people would go
Okay.
watch that on PEG TV after the fact, because we send it in, so we're still sending those in?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think we need to let people know that too, that we do that.
And it's on our webpage too.
On our webpage as well,
Okay.
so I don't.
You mean our Fairhaven webpage, like on YouTube,
No, they're on the Slate Valley webpage.
the Slate Valley
Yeah,
webpage?
under the school board section.
Brooke, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yep.
You had mentioned phone calls home, or somebody mentioned phone calls home. Do we call each I know in some schools, teachers are asked if they would take, a certain number of, on the voter checklist and call and just say, don't forget the polls are open tomorrow from blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah. We used to do that in this district,
Right, right. I believe I've been talking with the union about it. I know, they're definitely gonna work on calling all of the teachers that live in this district to make sure they vote, because that's a problem for us as well. And, we can certainly look for volunteers to do that. I mean, that's fine. It's the parents though that we're not reaching, and we have those,
We
and
did an
can
alert
easily-
now.
Yeah, but I didn't do the phone call. I only did the email because honestly, I thought.
I mean,
I thought the budget
I don't
would
know, and
pass.
it does take work, but that's, a lot of schools, we just
Right.
divvy it up, so I call 30 people, for example, personal phone call. I don't know if it's helpful, a lot of them say,
So how do you get their phone number?
voter check, they're on a
I don't
voter
think it has the
checklist, and we've
phone
got the
number though,
kids.
does it?
No.
Obviously, their numbers in our.
Has the
in our school
address.
stuff. So we're just calling the families of kids in our schools.
Oh,
The parents.
all right.
We can put out a generic one for everybody, right?
Right, alert now.
Yeah, but there's something different about an alert now, like,
Right, it's
we use
more
Alert
feel
Now,
more
School
personal.
Messenger, and they hear my voice and go,
Right.
hate to be rude, but
Oh, they do.
They do.
Some people
Oh, they
heard
do.
the whole bus one, they heard bus 5 and they would hang up and I'm like, dude, you needed to hear that. 'Cause that affected your kid. What?
But
They do. I agree.
I'm just saying that personal phone call, it takes time, but I'm just grabbing at something that could help that might be a little bit different, because obviously what we're doing isn't working. I'm trying to think outside the box a little.
Did you have something, Glenn?
Just one thing, I mean, it's not for this one, but I really think in looking at this schedule that was passed around for next coming year, we really need to rethink the annual information meeting on the 27th. A lot of town select boards are all meeting that night at the same time, and people tend to be more involved with those than the school meeting. So I think that might be a bad night to have that one.
You guys meet on Mondays, Norwell?
Yep.
So does Castleton does
Second
too.
and fourth.
So does
Norwell.
Castleton.
So does Hubbardton.
Yeah.
Second and fourth.
So I think.
Well, you've got to change the bylaws then,
Lake Limousine.
because
Yeah.
it's in our bylaws.
Correct.
When you, in the Articles of Agreement, when you agreed to meet the last Monday in February for the annual meeting. So it's a bigger deal than a board meeting.
All right.
Back in the old days, we used to have them at the same night. One would start like at, 6, and one would go from 6 to 7.
But it hasn't been a
Something would
huge
be
issue.
School, and then 7, whatever, and then the next year it
We were our
changed.
own
this year.
districts, and so we
Right.
had them together.
Right.
And ours was a different, we're different.
Well, we had our school one at night and the calendar at
Well, and see, next year, town meetings will be a week later
Right.
Right.
than that meeting. But it still lands us on the same nights with all those other select board meetings.
Yeah, I just don't know how you're gonna, because you're not gonna, you have to have it within so many days, and if you back it up to the week prior, you're gonna have school vacation weeks. You're
No, I
gonna
wouldn't-
miss-
I wouldn't necessarily go with a week prior, but I mean, if there's a way, if it's gonna create a big to-do to, changing the bylaws, but just pick a different night than Monday,
Like a Wednesday.
something like that, when other boards aren't meeting. But obviously, we'd have to change the bylaws and that. I mean, if you're trying to get people to be in attendance, I think we've got to start looking at what can we do to make sure we get more people that are participating.
How many people do you think go to a select board meeting then? In Orwell? Not many.
5.
Yeah. But, when every select board out there is meeting that same night, it may not change anything, Peter. I mean,
No, I know.
it's just, I think we've got to try to do something to get more participation in with the public.
I mean, look, it might be in our Articles of Agreement, which then you need voter approval. So let me look. I'll do a little research on it.
I have a question over here.
Sure, go ahead.
It wasn't a question, but I've done, because I wanted to go to the meetings, and our select board does meet at the same time is because it's so much easier for them to change their meeting time. Have them announce ahead of time that that last meeting in February, if it's not the night of town meeting, they're going to meet earlier. So we can end early and I can get to the school meeting on time. Because it's a lot easier for a select board meeting to change than it is for the school.
All right, there's more to discuss. Maybe at this point, we can defer to Brooke and Cheryl, and they can just talk about the three options that they've outlined for us tonight. You know, there could be other options, you know, not mentioned in one of the three was representing the same budget. So, you know, Brooke's hope tonight is to come to a consensus as a full board about what the next steps are going to be so that we can hold a vote in early to mid-April. But, you know, we're not going to rush the process just to rush the process either. If we can't reach a decision tonight and we feel it should be referred back to the finance committee for further evaluation, that's fine too. So I guess Brooke, Cheryl, if you want to just talk about the three options that you've outlined for us.
Yeah, so I included in the board packet a memo on those three different options. So since we now know that Castleton Village School will be closing in June, we can take some of the costs out of the budget. Previously, we had it in the budget because we didn't know the outcome of the vote on town meeting day. So that allows us to take about 26,000 out. So that would be option one. And that would be result in an increase of in spending per equalized pupil of, oh, do you want me to go through all the slides or do you want me to just talk about the memo?
You can do it. I mean, if you want, so the next slide after that one is, that's the.
Okay,
education spending. So one slide has the budget. I mean, it's kind of
Okay.
two parts.
So
How you want to do it.
So if you just took out that 26,000 that we know we may not need now, that's going to result in a 2.78% increase in spending per equalized pupil. Now, all of these we're estimating are tax decreases for all of our towns, regardless of which one you pick. So, and substantial, which in most of the towns.
So option two includes option one, option three includes option two.
Correct. They all build off of one another. So option two includes the money from the village school taken out of the budget.
Which is actually $33,000.
I was gonna say 33,500, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
The original budget was 26,270,047.
Well, I don't know where that number came from then.
Well, that was what was on this that we sent out to people. That's what was on the.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, 26, forget it. Yes, you're right.
So when you take away,
Correct.
come up.
No, I got it. I was looking at 26 million. I was reading 20, yeah.
So 33.5 is.
33.5, yeah.
Yes.
33,500.
And then option two includes the closure of the village school plus the reduction of one school nurse. The last 2 years, or this past year, we've had 8 school nurses due to COVID. That is unusually high for a district. We do have one school nurse that's resigning that you're accepting their resignation tonight. So I would recommend going down to 7 school nurses district-wide next year and to eliminate that position through attrition.
And that was a Fairhaven grade school nurse?
Correct, but they all work for they'll be redistributed throughout the district. Yeah. So that results in a change, an increase in spending of 2.43%. And then, the last option, is the school nurse, the closure of the village, closing of the village school, and, taking funds out for teacher negotiations. We have not settled teacher negotiations. We feel we could reasonably take some monies out that we've set aside for that, which would result in, a percent increase in education spending per equalized pupil of 1.99%.
You want a thought?
Yeah, let's see, just,
I got a thought already. I think you should leave it original. Anybody I talked to said just put the budget back out.
I agree.
I don't think we should lose the money from the 33,000, and I don't think we should lose a nurse.
all right, let's just do this first. Are there any questions that anyone has about these three options that Brooke just presented, the specifics? Anyone online? All right, so maybe the next question to ask then is maybe just a quick straw poll. Are people more inclined to make cuts via option 1, 2, and 3? Or are people more inclined to either represent as is or even add spending? Just so we know which way this discussion is going to go and if it can be resolved tonight. So who, with a show of hands, would like to ultimately represent with the reduction via option 1, 2, or 3? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chris Stanton, is your hand up?
Yes.
That's 6. How about Tanya and Becca online? Did you hear the question?
Yes, but I want to keep the budget the same.
You want to represent as is?
Yes.
Okay, and how about Tanya?
Yeah, I also hate to make any cuts, especially if that's not why it was voted down. I wonder if we could even get more feedback and send it back to the finance committee rather than decide to cut now, but.
All right, so how many people do we have here tonight, Brooke? 18 minus 4 is 14. Tara's not here, so there's 13. And there are 6 people who raised their hands. Well, actually, if you take away me, that's 12, right? So
There's 6 and 6.
So 6 people voted to resubmit with. Let's just write this down.
I was gonna say, I think there's.
Then we could speak to our.
I was gonna say, and you
Straw
gave
vote.
3 options,
Yeah.
and you haven't talked to all 3 options yet.
Well, how many people want to revote the same thing? You didn't ask that one.
Right, but he also said revote and add or revote and change, right?
I said represent
So,
as
that's-
is or add money to it, not make cuts.
So is this an option, represent and add? So there's 3 options?
There's 5 then.
Right, I think we gotta clarify what you're asking us, because
So
there's a
just to
lot going on.
clarify in my head, I believe that now that Brooke has presented those 3 options, those are 3 very valid reasons why you would reduce the budget by that amount. However, I don't necessarily want to reduce the budget.
Correct.
But I don't believe that we should say, oh, we still are going to keep the money in there for the Castleton school that we no longer need to keep $33,000 or whatever that figure was. I think that that's disingenuous. So do you see what I'm saying?
Correct.
But I don't think that we should cut our budget.
That's exactly what I was.
Because to, the points over here, I don't think the budget's high enough to support what we need to do.
So do we take what we were going to cut and reallocate it to a different place and present the exact same budget with it somewhere else? i.e. maintenance, building maintenance, i.e. some kind of whatever, but I mean, keep the budget the same, but just take these things and it's somewhere else if we're willing to do
Well,
that.
yeah, well, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to cut the budget. I don't think we take the savings and put them somewhere else. I mean, if we know we're saving 33,000, we can put it somewhere else. It's fine. And the same with I don't know what the last one was. I don't remember now.
Teacher
negotiations. I don't think you should take that one out.
I agree.
No. And the school nurse, I'm not convinced we should get rid of the school nurse.
Were those reimbursable through ESSER funds or that particular?
This
position?
is a local, but we have 2 that are through ESSER funds. This would be a local budget.
But we increased the nurses in the school system because of the COVID tracing that we had to do at that time. And if we're not going to have to do that, I don't think that you need to have that many. You still have one more than what we previously had before COVID.
Are we still gonna have a nurse full-time in all schools?
Nurses are a catch-all for social services, so I hesitate.
Well, I just. what
I
you
don't
read-
know yet.
Okay, because I feel.
I
we
would
should
say
have-
possibly not, or we'd have people floating. Right.
I think we should have a nurse in all schools.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know about other schools, but I know Orwell had a time when we didn't have a nurse, and our secretary can't be a nurse and a secretary. And there's lots of times we had kids that were in a room sick, and she had to watch them. The way it's set up now, she can't watch them. And I also, you got a letter from somebody that was praising the nurses and what she did for her son.
Yep.
So I personally think we should not be cutting a nurse over a few dollars. That's not gonna save anybody anything.
Okay.
I totally agree. I agree with everything that's being said. I think we need to put the money back into our schools and keep the budget and reallocate it.
Could I just share about the nurse?
Sure.
Having taught in Orwell, we only had a nurse part-time, and I just remember kids would get sick, and I think you can't get sick. It's Wednesday. We don't have a nurse. Who ends up cleaning that vomit? You know, I think I agree that you have to have a teacher in every school.
A nurse.
A nurse, I'm sorry. Not a
Teacher too.
I'm not-
Don't need teachers.
I'm just saying. But you gotta have a nurse in every school. I think it's really important.
Okay.
And Tim, when you had said, you want to go with one of the options, I mean, my vote would have been, if I had to go with something, was option one, was to take out the money for the Castleton Village School and not take out any more.
And not reallocate the savings elsewhere, actually lower it by that amount?
I mean, I can go with reallocating those two, but I think that you've got to take that money out. It can't be sitting there as for Castleton Village
Right.
School.
Yep.
Um,
That makes sense.
I'd be great. Let's reallocate that toward and throw some more money in it to trying to fix our guidance issue. That's been booming for at least 10 years that never seems to get addressed.
So just quickly on Castleton Village School, as things have developed, you don't see any possibility or need on the district's part to use or operate that facility beyond either July 1st or the time necessary to transfer the building?
I'm not, we're not exactly sure on the timing of the transfer of the building. There could be some costs that bleed over for sure, into the next fiscal year. But our expectation would be that we don't need the whole $33,000. I mean, could you leave it in the maintenance budget and then could we use it to address deferred maintenance in other areas of the district for sure?
All right, so I'm not hearing a convincing majority on either side to, it sounds like this needs to be discussed further in a finance committee where people can have input and they can further work the numbers. I know that's not the desirable outcome for some tonight, but I'm not hearing from the board that they're ready to commit to making cuts tonight. Am I hearing that correctly?
So wait a minute. So
No.
it needs to go to finance because we're not committed to making cuts, or it needs to go to finance to look for cuts? I don't think anybody has said they want cuts.
I want cuts.
I do.
Okay.
There were six.
So is there a majority that wants to just put it to revote as it is and reallocate? Have you asked that?
It was 6-6 was left up to Tim.
Well, that was a straw poll, and that was, not everybody voted. I didn't even get a chance to raise my hand because nobody asked the question I was ready to answer. So he asked one vote, 6 people raised their hand, and everybody
So
automatically
can
said
we
it's
just make
6
a
to
motion
6.
of what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah, good idea.
Make a motion that we leave the budget as is and reallocate whatever. $60,500 to someplace else in the budget.
I second that.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to represent the budget, carving out the savings realized from Castleton Village School, approximately 33,500, and instead reallocating those funds to some other area that administration feels is appropriate. So the floor is open for questions and discussion on that. Glenn?
I think, can we target that reallocated money toward deferred maintenance? I think that if you put that as, that's where it's going, people are gonna buy into that better than we're just gonna use it wherever we feel we ought to use it. I think that if you can say it's going toward deferred maintenance on other buildings in the district, people are gonna be more accepting of that.
Okay. Rick?
We already allocated 800,000, right? For deferred maintenance?
We put it in capital improvement.
That's different.
Right.
That's different than
It is.
deferred maintenance.
It is.
And then we do have maintenance
What's
in the
the difference?
budget as well.
Most of that 820,000 is probably gonna get eaten up by
Going
the
to
elevator,
the-
correct?
It's gonna be the elevator project here
Yeah.
at the high school, yeah.
Well, I thought the elevator, you're talking 250 to 300,000 or something.
No, I wish,
Bill-
I wish, no.
Like about $1 million.
Yeah.
Buy you a button.
Yeah, buy you a button. The up button cost that much.
I don't know where I got.
Can come down.
Yeah.
It was something else very tough.
Patty?
So I also think that from a teacher negotiation standpoint, if we're not using those dollars now for teacher negotiation, it should be reallocated. Again, I go with the, you need to, at this point in time, you need to be defining what you're spending your money on.
But how are we gonna tell the people where that 33 in the teacher negotiations going? Because it's not gonna be on the ballot.
Well, I,
You're gonna have to send out a flyer saying,
right,
we took $40,000 and put it into here on the budget.
you'd have to,
Right, you're
Okay.
saying that you're gonna reallocate it to another
Maintenance.
fund, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Or you
Gonna-
can also give Brooke the discretion to obviously allocate it. But I think when you vote a budget, you should be voting the budget that you said that we present a budget, you vote the budget. If you vote the budget down, because we can't really determine what lines those are that anybody voted down, then you have to go back and say, okay, we're gonna present the same budget amount, but we recognize that there are some categories there that we don't need that money for right now.
Right, I don't have
So
a
we're gonna
problem. with
reallocate that money.
That's fine. We can put those two.
But we need to say where
Saving
we're
someplace else.
reallocating.
Do we
Right, and I,
transparent to that effect and be
well, I just
specific on
think
how we're?
because it was brought up that I think we do, yeah. I mean, I would if I were watching this right now on PEG TV or, whenever, if I were listening to this meeting, I would say, well, if you don't need the money for the Castleton Village School, then I don't want to.
Want to know where it's going?
I want to know where it's
Or I want it
going,
gone.
yeah.
Right.
Or else then,
Or else
I don't
reduce
know,
it.
that's the way I would feel. Maybe other people don't feel that way, that's fine. But I would feel like if you said that, like Peter, articulated that we want a nurse, Chris backs him up. We want a nurse in every building. So no, we don't want to, we want to put that same line item, if you will, forward because we believe in that nurse.
So that would be contrary to the motion he made though, because he was only specific to the reallocation.
I can
of
re-motion it,
Right.
add into the
Correct.
future negotiations if you
You have
don't
to
think we're
rescind your
gonna need
first
it.
one.
no, I
But,
don't think,
But
It's
I'm
not-
only one voice. I mean, somebody else can have a
What-
voice. I'm just saying that that's the way I look at
All right, I
conversation.
don't think we ought to reallocate teacher negotiation money. I think we ought to leave it in there, what we had, start with. We're in the process of negotiating with them. I think it's a bad gesture to, pull that money out right now, even though we haven't settled with them.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree with Brent.
not what
We
I
need to
thought.
wait until we've settled.
Can I?
Chris?
I think that in view of the fact that we have had money left over at the end of the year in the past few years, I know in 2020 it was because the school was closed for X number of months. However, this year we had $2 million surplus in the budget and we had to put $820,000 into the capital budget. I think that we should really send it back to finance and really relook at it all. I think for sure, I agree with Patty, if you're gonna take that money from this Castleton Village School, it should come out. And if you don't need it for that, and we hadn't already put it into the capital budget previously, then we shouldn't add it in there. I think it should just plain come out. We should go back to finance committee and just go through it all again.
Can I just make a clarification? In FY '21, we still weren't fully operating because of issues related to COVID. So there were definitely things that did not happen because of COVID.
Transportation,
Yeah.
field trip, sports.
Transportation's not filled. So I want to make that clear. We
Right.
were still not fully.
We weren't able to hire all of our positions. We still couldn't this year. We still can't.
So
We don't want to get
that's,
into next year and all of a sudden have to raise the budget by 200,000.
you know, when we.
Why not if we're
were-
giving people what they want?
Well, we might not be giving them what they want. We might be giving.
Well,
them-
maybe we should try to figure that out.
Well, I don't disagree. That's what I'm talking about though. I mean, we've had a lot of savings. We've had a lot of influx of money from the government. Everybody has. And then all of a sudden, I mean, some of this money's gonna end.
Right.
COVID's not gonna go on like this forever.
This
The
is,
next year, all of a sudden, our school and everything's back on track. We're having field trips, all the buses are running. And then all of a sudden, we need money just to do what we're doing now.
and you say, you know, these are the things we couldn't provide before because of COVID. And now we're back to a normal, you know, operating environment as we were pre-COVID. But, you know, the other thing too, what Glenn had said about, you know, enhancing our guidance department. Now, I'm hearing we don't want to get rid of eighth, or we don't want to take the money out for an eighth school nurse. Now, as I count, we've got, what, 5 buildings? Because we're getting rid of Castleton Village School. So I'm not seeing how we don't have a school nurse in each building.
Well, numbers, you gotta
It's
think.
numbers, because the high school is gonna have 500 and
Right.
some odd kids, and then you've got, it's the size of the schools and the ratios.
Right.
So how many nurses are here at the school, at the high school?
Right now,
How many do you?
2 right now. Next year is slated for 3, but they can't all fit in the nurse's office, so you know, that's
One
a problem.
designated middle school.
Well,
Or
they're
just
all, we
3 of
have one
them
nurse.
From 7 through 12 instead of 2 for 9 to 12.
Correct.
Can you maybe just talk, Brooke, about the negative impacts of a delay in going out to revote? I guess I'm speaking of, let's say, hopefully we do settle with the teachers soon. Are we able to issue contracts if we don't have a passed budget, or would they still be letters of intent in that point? And then are there other carrying costs if this drags into May, June?
Well, every time you do an election, everyone's incurring cost for that, thousands of dollars. Every time you have a vote, there's a cost to that. I think, you know, we would be issuing, you can issue contracts, but, you know, I've never gone into the next fiscal year without a budget passed. I do know, like, even this week, we're running into issues where the schools need to order certain things for the fall because of the lead time in shipping and everything else, and we're not really able to order them because we don't have a budget for next year. So it's a problem for sure. And if you go back out to vote in April, and in order to vote April 13th, you have to do the warning tonight. So you're not going to vote April vacation week. So you're talking the end of April would be the earliest you could possibly vote, probably the first week in May, if you don't make a decision tonight. And if that fails, then you're talking sometime in June, because that's what happened 2 years ago to us as well. So, it creates instability in the system, and I think people are more likely to find jobs in stable systems, but that's, you know.
Another example, Tim, is there's 600,000 in for deferred maintenance projects. If we don't get contractors lined up, projects out to bid, I won't be able to do the jobs this summer. I mean, we're getting close to that point already. Where if you don't have contractors lined up, I'd have to do them maybe next spring or next, you know, the window closes pretty quickly on when we can do those summer projects.
So you really need the budget to pass the next time.
So could we look at the possibility of, doing a warning that has the same amount, but then giving this to the finance committee and asking them to work through, you know, where that money would be reallocated, for lack of a better term? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
So just go ahead, back out with the same number. I mean, I don't know if people would agree with that, but it sounds like there might be a majority to agree with that. Go out with the same number, then that way you can still warn it for your April.
And we're reallocating $33,500.
But we talk
We
about
need a
what we were
finance committee meeting
reallocating.
to do that for 33,000, which isn't even like the point.
I mean, they're reallocating all the time. I mean, I don't know why
Yeah.
it needs to be so official.
I do want to make sure people understand that it's not a line item
That's
budget,
right.
it's a dollar amount, as
Yep,
you all know.
Right.
absolutely. I'm just saying,
So
and you'd never have this
Just-
conversation if it hadn't been brought up right
you,
now.
you could
I'm
just leave
saying.
it in maintenance. I mean,
That's where it is
that's
now.
where I would leave it.
I mean, I'd leave the whole.
Yeah, right? That's where it is
Right.
now anyways. It's not-
Correct,
it's
that's
in
where it
maintenance.
is now. It just isn't, won't be specifically designated for the village school.
Christina.
So my only concern is that there will be voters who voted no, that know that this middle school is closing, and they're going to wonder why we're not reducing the budget. I get it. I would love to pay more money for the school system, but I think the people that voted no and knowing that school closed are going to wonder why it's not changing. That's my only concern. Even if it's only by a little bit, I think it might make the people feel like,
When we send out an email or a informational letter, we'll just have to make sure that's on there, that the $33,000 that was allocated for the Castleton Village School is now going into the maintenance for the rest of the schools.
Because the budget didn't go up. The budget already was reduced
right. Which a lot of people didn't get.
because of the warning,
Right.
which requires equalized people.
I
So
think your
it's
point's a good one, though.
about
I
our
mean,
message.
people,
It's
I
our
think it's
message.
safe to say that most people voted no because they thought the budget was too high. Maybe that percentage is narrowing and there's a larger growing share of people who want to see more spending, but I still think that the majority of people who voted no was because it was too high. And her point is, obviously, if we represent the same thing, are we now going to be insulting those people and they're going to be upset that we didn't make cuts and read the message and they're going to vote no again? That's certainly a valid
Take
concern.
33,000 off of 26 million, is anybody gonna notice it?
No.
No.
I think if it's less.
Yeah, but you're looking at a number and it's not gonna be two numbers to compare.
Right.
It's not gonna say it was 26 million minus 33,000. It's gonna be 26,200,000 and whatever thousand now.
Yeah.
The only thing that they might notice is that the difference in the increase is going to be less.
And remember, you put the
Right.
same budget out in 2020 and it failed again. So, I mean, I'm
That does, a lot of the people who are diehard no, if you put that out again, they're going to find their friends who are diehard no that didn't happen to vote and drag them out.
I think there's 800 people that vote no every single budget. If you look at it, the number that voted no this time is the same exact number that voted no in the past 4 or 5 elections. We haven't changed those 800 people's minds and we're not going to now. That's not who we're shooting for, in my opinion. We're shooting for the people who are a little more involved and a little more understanding of what we're doing and didn't flip over the thing. That's who we're shooting for.
Yeah.
Because 800, seriously, it's 860 people every single year that vote no, and that's exactly what it was this year too.
Tim,
So,
we
same.
have a motion. Can we vote on it? See if-
There's still some more discussion. I know Rebecca had her hand up, so Rebecca, go ahead with your question.
It wasn't a question, it was just, people are not going to know the full amount. They want to know where the 1.2 million savings went. That's what they're gonna notice. They're not gonna notice a little tiny amount. If we put a budget with a little tiny amount down, they're not gonna notice that. And they're gonna see the big number at the very beginning and still say no. The same people are gonna say no, no matter what, just like Julie said. So I don't think that our tiny savings of 33 is gonna make any difference. I think we need to just reallocate the funds, keep our nurses, and keep our schools going.
Yeah, Glenn?
the 1.2 million that, you know, we were projecting and saving with the middle school got eaten up by a 7% inflation rate. I mean, 7% times 26 million, there goes your 1.2 million
Correct.
right out the door.
It was increased costs across the
Yeah.
board, so.
And that's inflation, and that we can't control.
If you did not have the 1.2 million in savings, your budget would be $1.2 million higher than it is right now.
All right,
And the savings came from the middle school move. A lot of-
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think we ought to lower it myself on option 2. Because I think a lot of people, we ought to be honest with people, saying that we got a positive vote from Castleton to buy the school back. And I think with the nursing part of it, I think 7 nurses, we can put a nurse in Orwell and in Benson and still have 5 left over. If we have to have 3 up here, we still have, 2 to go for Fairhaven and Castle. 1 apiece there. And they're more flexible here because they don't have to travel that far.
are we able to, you can type up a motion or a warning tonight for us to vote on if we do decide to represent as is?
I can't type it up for you right this second.
But we can give you the.
But yes, you can approve the numbers and then you can sign it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, so just to recap, Peter made a motion to represent the budget with the same expenditure amount, making the note that the savings from the Castleton Village School 33.5 would be reallocated to another area. I don't think you were specific, but it seems to be maintenance. And that was seconded.
Line it was in anyway.
Yep.
Seconded by Julie. So we will vote on that motion now. And you can support it, or if you don't like any component of that, you can vote no. So all those in favor of approving that motion, please say aye.
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 I'll do no's first. And are there no's?
No.
No.
All right, so let's write this down. So Rick is a no. Christina is a no.
No.
Chris and John and Glenn? Chris, John, Glenn. So those are no's.
6.
Same as it was before.
So the
Conversation.
So the yays are going to be, let's do online first. It was Rebecca and Tanya were both yeses?
Yes.
Is that a yes
Yes.
from who? Yes, okay, so that's
Just like our
Tanya,
community.
Becca. Peter was a yes. Julie was a yes.
Tony was a yes.
Tony was a yes. Patty was a yes. What is, so that's 6-6.
So that's you, Tim.
That's
you, Tim.
Break.
Tim gets to be the tiebreaker.
And what does that mean? I would just defeat the motion and we're still left with needing to take further action.
Yep, maybe it's not.
Or you can yes the motion.
Or you can
and we
yes
take
the
action.
motion.
We take action.
Yes.
Fearless leader.
What's that?
Fearless leader.
Keep the pause going.
Yeah.
$500 vote, $300 vote.
Bet you wish someone else showed up tonight.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to side with the no's. I do think there should be a reduction of some sort. So if I'm casting a tiebreaker vote, I would decline the motion. Be on that side.
And this is an insult to taxpayers, sorry, and our school district.
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that we accept option 2 and reduce the budget by that amount.
Okay. Is there a second to option 2? You have a second there. All right. Option 2.
Somebody seconded it?
Yes, I did.
Chris. Rick.
Who did the second to Rick's motion?
Christine.
Hey.
Thank you.
Do we have specific questions or discussion on Rick's motion, which is to reduce the expenditures, option 2, which would be the savings from CVS and the elimination of a nurse? Are there any questions or specific discussion on that?
So I don't think that that is as obvious to the general public that there's going to be a lack of a nurse. And so, because I think we should try to keep the budget closer to where it is, I feel more comfortable with option 1 and just the more obvious that that expense is no longer there. And then keeping the money for the nurse.
Okay. Question, comment? Are there any other question, comments?
I would agree with Christine. I mean, I'm a firm supporter of option 1, and I don't want to make any cuts beyond that.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be sorry this time next year.
What's up?
I think we're gonna be sorry this time next year. We just keep cutting money. This is like the third, fourth year we've cut money. It's gonna end. We can't, it's unsustainable. Sorry. The 53,500 isn't gonna get the no votes to vote yes. You're not even gonna see it. It's 26,200 some thousand or 26,210,000. Nobody's gonna even notice it. That's my opinion.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments about Rick's motion that has a second about selecting option 2? If not, we will vote on that one. Okay, so we'll call the question then on the second motion made by Rick, seconded by Christine from Hubbardton, to represent a decrease with option number 2. All those in favor of accepting that, please say aye.
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 Okay, so Rick, yes. Chris, yes. Who else? John? Are there any other yeses? Chris Stanton, you didn't, that was a no from you?
Yeah, I'm in favor of option 1.
Okay, so that was a no. That was a no. Anyone? Okay, Rebecca and Tanya online, what's your vote on that one? Option 2?
No.
And Tanya?
No as well, yeah.
Okay, so I only count 3 yeses for that. That motion will not carry then. So we're back to square one.
No, you have to vote, somebody make a motion on.
Oh, yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept Brooks' recommendation for option 1.
Okay. Is there a second for?
Second.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so there's a motion and a second to present a reduced expenditure budget, option 1, that would be eliminating Castleton Village School operating costs, $33,500. Any further questions specific to that motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the motion, option 1?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's start here.
I wish I could vote yes as a Supreme Court judge and write an opinion that had to go with my yes, because I feel like my arm is up my back and being pulled tight, that if we don't solve this tonight, we are setting our school district up for a serious world of hurt in allowing them to continue to function as a school district when it comes to building maintenance, contracts, teacher negotiations for $33,500. I feel strong-armed. So I wish I could vote yes without feeling that way, because this is 860 people vote no every single election. I've been on this board for 13 years and I've seen the exact same number. And if we think $33,500 is going to flip this, I think you guys are, nobody's paying attention to the realities of history in voting in this district. And so I'm going to say yes, but I'm going to do it with a very strong, I wish I didn't have to do this, because it actually is painful to me.
I agree with you, Julie. I feel the same way.
I feel very strong-armed right now for $33,500, which makes zero difference in our budget, but it could help a small piece of maintenance get taken care of in our district as well. So that's, I'll vote yes, but very strong arm to do so.
I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna vote no.
I agree with Julie, but still vote no. We need that money.
Rick? Yes. Patty?
I'm not writing any dissension tonight, let me assure you. But, I don't know.
Abstain.
Yeah, I'll abstain. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
So you can take Rick off the hook here.
Tony, you said no, right?
I said a reluctant yes.
You said a reluctant yes, okay. Chris Stanton?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Peter, you said no, right? Becca said no, and then Tanya?
Said no.
I don't think it matters, but
I think she said no.
Tanya, are you there?
Yeah, I think, I'd say no. I'd rather not make the cut.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 yeas. I have 4 noes and 1 abstain, and I don't need to vote. That's 12.
Yep.
That's everyone. So that passes.
Yep. I don't want to be sitting here all night going round and round about this, just to put our district on the hook, which is absolutely horrible to do. It's already been done.
I'm
Julie,
sorry,
agree
but I
with
am
you.
so disappointed right now.
I agree with you. It's just, there's time now. We've been developing this budget for months and months and months, starting back in November. And now we're kind of all under the gun to represent something to the public as soon as possible for reasons that Brooke and Chris have articulated to us. So we're all kind of stuck.
Yeah, but people were willing to put this back to committee and push this out to an end of April, early May vote. And the longer you put this out, the less people are going to vote. You got to get it back out there for people to vote. And to do that, to push it out, to me is, it's not good management of our budget, in my opinion.
Well, I'm confused by what you just
I
said.
don't want it to go back to finance committee. And if this kept happening, it was going to go back to finance because you were going to vote no.
Yes.
And I was not in agreement with that either because that just
Okay.
extends the time longer.
So you're conflicted, I guess.
Correct.
Okay.
Extends the time longer and pushes it out and thinking that even less
Voted
people
yes,
are
but
going to
wanted to
vote.
vote no because she
Correct.
doesn't want to tie up everything for
Correct.
$33,500.
Exactly.
I was just gonna say, I do think that this is such a huge issue, and I agree with Julie. I mean, it is the same numbers all the time that voted down. So instead of worrying about that number, because you cannot change that number, I think we should really think about which committees are talking about other ways to try to get our parents and guardians and our employees to vote the budget.
Exactly.
I don't know exactly who has that conversation and how they have it. I mean, I'd certainly be willing to be on a committee for it, but I don't want to overstep,
Wrong
anything,
focus.
but yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
So the state laws we're governed by, do they allow us to act like a normal business? And if we've got a $2 million surplus this year, like any other business, they would say, okay, now I can prepay maintenance contracts or building contracts into next year's budget. Is that not allowed?
No,
No.
Okay.
no, and we've committed that surplus, yeah.
Okay.
No. No.
Needed to ask the question.
All right, so why don't we do the warning now? All
Yeah.
right, since we know which option we're doing.
Who do I want to give it to? Read.
So this is the 2.78% increase one.
Yeah, I think you just,
So I would make a motion that we warn a revote on the Slate Valley Unified Union School District budget to to occur on Tuesday, wait a minute, nope, Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, at the named polling places. And the warning should, mostly for Article 2, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $26,236,547, which is the amount the school board has determined necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in an education spending of $16,957.13 per equalized pupil. This projected spending for equalized pupil is 2.78% greater than spending for the current year. There will be an informational meeting to be held at the Fairhaven Union High School band room on Tuesday, April 12th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
That's a motion, right?
That's the motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion or questions on the specifics and wording?
Becca has her hand up. I don't.
Becca, did you have a question on the motion?
Not on the motion. I just wanted to make a comment.
Is it related?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
I'm very disappointed that more people on this board are more concerned with their tax increase or decrease than they are with our schools, the deferred maintenance, and our teachers.
All right, are there any other questions or comments on the motion on the floor to warn this revote? All right, hearing nothing further, all those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed?
No.
Aye.
Anyone? Okay, so I have Peter as the only no vote on that.
Did Becca say no?
She
too?
said aye.
Did I?
Oh, all right.
I said aye to the no.
Okay, so
You asked
Peter
all
and
opposed and I said aye.
Oh, she said aye.
all right, I guess, Rebecca, I just wanted to quickly respond. I don't know if it's quite fair to suggest that the people who voted no don't have an interest in the well-being of our kids. I certainly do. It's really just the function of the timing of having to get this done. That's really, from my perspective, the only reason that I voted for option one. I agree with Peter. I mean, this is not sustainable. And I guess the work of selling our budget and selling our vision to the community, it's always ongoing. It never ends. And to Julie's point, she's right. The same 800 people always vote no. We have to bring in new people, new stakeholders. We have to engage the parents. We've got to sell a vision. And that's how we're going to move. That's how we're going to recruit in more yeses.
The other thing too is that if we ever do have another vote that has to have a two-sided ballot, you have to either have somebody that's right at the polls that's saying, did you fill out both sides? And or just a two-page thing so that it's not flip over. Because when I counted the votes last year, those pages on the back side that were not filled out were tons of people that did not fill it out at all on the back side. Tons.
All righty. Whew. So I think we're moving off budget issues, right? No other business on that?
No.
Okay. All right, so the next agenda item is going to be the contract list. We had a resignation on that list, and then we also had a request for extended leave. Is that part of the same agenda item we have to approve?
Yeah. You want me to contracts?
Sure, go ahead.
So I make a motion to accept the resignation of Mary Wynn, Fairhaven Grade School nurse for the 22-23 school year.
Second.
Questions or discussions on the resignation? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
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 And anyone opposed? Okay,
I make a motion to accept the leave of absence for Julia Adams, extended family leave beginning July 2022.
second. And administration concurs with that request. Do you support it?
Yes.
Any further questions or discussion on the extended leave request? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay. All right, next we have a field trip request. I don't have my printout, so I'm not sure from where. Brooke, you're right on top of it here. This is from Orwell Village School, 8th grade,
Going to Boston.
going to Boston this May.
Yep.
Okay. Patrick, if you're there, maybe just a quick summary of the request. Got him, didn't I?
Jesse's.
It's their 8th grade trip to Boston.
Well, they're not asking for money.
No, they're not asking for money. It's just anything,
This is just permission.
anything that's over 100 miles.
Okay, so
They
we don't really
for.
need any more input from him.
No.
So,
Well, I do
okay.
have a question though, because they said on the form something about not needing a certificate of liability for the insurance or something at the bottom there. I was curious about,
Would
Because
not,
it's
Said
a school
unsure
trip.
would not hurt to take a copy.
what did they mean by that? Like,
I'm not sure what that.
covered
we're-
by
we're-
our
we're- we're
insurance, so,
covered.
I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
they need the insurance card necessarily in their back pocket, but
Right,
hope
no.
they understand that they are covered by our
Yeah,
liability
they're all
if they
set.
want to be.
Well, it is a question on our form. that-
Yeah,
Right,
so I just,
Look at what
Yeah.
they did there. They
Sure.
didn't really, I don't know, they answered it oddly, I guess is what I'm saying.
It says unsure would not hurt to take a copy.
Yeah, that's not very yes or no to me, you know, like it's not very black and
They should
white,
take a
so.
copy with them.
yeah, no. Yeah, I can follow up with
Yeah.
Marcy on that. That's not a
They're
problem.
issued, they're specifically issued to entities that have requested. It's not like something you just take a copy of.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
We can
So we'll
issue
follow
them
up.
very easily to whoever requires it.
All right, so we need a motion to grant this request.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion on the field trip request for Orwell Village to Boston? Okay, hearing no further questions. All those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay, next we have the central office report, which was included in our packet. We briefly touched on Brooke, who had kind of summarized the reasons for and against the budget. We further discussed that. Anybody else have questions for the administrators? I guess, Chris Cole, I would just ask you and obviously confirm the village school is going to reopen next Monday.
Everything's in order. We just gotta do cleanup. Yeah, hopefully tomorrow and Wednesday, and folks are moving back in Thursday and Friday.
And everything as was it, you know, all the fixtures and cabinetry, it's all going back as it was?
Won't even know what happened.
Wow. Well, thanks so much for all those
And it
efforts.
shouldn't be any change for them. It's pretty much 99% exactly how it was.
Okay.
The insurance covered everything.
Still working on the insurance claim for sure, but
And I'll just stick with you too. I mean, obviously you mentioned that things are going according to plan on schedule for the middle school. No more asbestos.
yes.
All the roofing has been pre-ordered. No supply chain issues, not yet.
Found some more asbestos containing material, but it's not to be unexpected. Roof is on order. It should be around the end of April, May timeframe. So we're
We
Yeah.
picked out finishes last week, for paint colors and flooring, counters.
Cross our fingers, we're still on schedule to be open middle of August.
All right, any other questions for the administration?
Nope, thank you for your report.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good report.
All right, other business?
I've got some.
Sure.
So we watched our 5-minute video, right, about the essential role of the school board. And yet again, it brings up that everything that we do and everything that we think about should be towards a shared vision. We don't have one. And I've brought this is like year 3 that I've brought this
We have a
up.
vision for
Well,
the district.
For the district, but as a board, have we come together and
Shouldn't you
like,
be supporting the district? I mean,
Yes.
you had input in that.
right, we did, but shouldn't there be like something that we came together and did like a board retreat that never really finished? Like we never got to the end of the board retreat where we were all on the same page. I mean, we might have a district vision, yes, definitely a district vision, but I still think we need to talk about, or at least as a board, be on the same page about when we're voting for stuff. Like some people care about building maintenance, some people care about teaching and program. Like I still feel like we're all over the place and need to have some kind of like continuity about why we're putting things in a budget. If $33,500 is going to cause this much of a problem, is it because we're not kind of all focused on the same things? Like, I feel like that board retreat, we never finished. Like we kind of started, but never finished everything.
That was focused on the strategic plan, and we're currently redoing the strategic plan, so.
Did the strategic plan ever get particularly
Yeah, you guys approved it.
and approved it?
Well, you get it, you get 2
We should,
updates a year on it.
I know,
We
but
should
I
get
still feel
together
like we're
this summer.
Well, I still feel like we're floating though. Like I don't feel like
Well, Well, perhaps every time we make a decision, you guys have the strategic plan in front of you and you're
or maybe we
looking at
need to be
that plan.
reminded about like, kind of like what it is.
Julie,
Yeah.
you have different people and everybody has a different mindset about things. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
No, I know.
Nobody, on every subject that we have to discuss as a board, you're not going to have every single person, oh yes, this is what we have to do. For a variety of reasons, like I said, I did talk to people in my district. I talked to quite a few, in fact.
Yep.
So I did get a couple of people that said, oh yeah, I didn't vote. But most of the time, it's been for the reasons that I said. It's not that I think that we can't all agree. It's that, we have history with putting back out the same budget again and it not passing. And yes, the 800 and some odd people are going to vote no, but you're showing that we're in good faith, at least trying to make a difference, whether it's a small amount of money or not. And yes, we do want to get it out right away so that we can go forward with all the things that we have to do with next year's building projects and so forth. So I don't know. I just think that while we all need to have a central vision about how the district should be going forward, I do think that we're all entitled to have our own opinions and we shouldn't have to be not insulted, but sort of browbeaten about what our opinion is.
So do we know our shared vision? Like, does everybody know the shared vision that we have as a board? Like, do we know what our end result is? Like, why we're doing stuff as a board?
We're doing stuff as a board because we care about our kids' education. We want our kids to have a good education. We want to have quality programs. All of those things that we discussed when we did have that retreat, you can agree with those and still have a difference of opinion.
I know. I totally understand trust me, I lose some, I win some. I get that 100%. But I'm just saying, do we all know the vision? Do we all know, like, what is the vision of the school? Is it to have students be in a certain place by the end, from beginning to end? Like, do we all know that? And because, we say we have a district vision, I can't recite it.
So one very simplistic way to kind of remind everyone of that is just to take your agenda, and at the top of your agenda, put your vision. And then you're kind of looking toward that. So,
That's
you
a
know,
great idea,
you don't have
Patty.
to.
We can do
Pretty
that.
simple.
I just feel like sometimes we all get lost. We get lost in our own town. We get lost in our own kind of how we feel. We get lost in our own kids who are in the school district, right? Because some of us have kids in the school district. So we get lost in that. And I feel like we need to just make sure that we all have that vision, whatever it is, front and center when we're talking. Because it shouldn't be about my son, and it shouldn't be about, Tim's son. It should be about the entire district. And I just don't want to get lost in kind of like our little space in Castleton or our little space in Fairhaven and not remind ourselves that we're a vision for a district. And I feel like that gets lost sometimes, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. And I don't feel like our vision is something all of us know.
Well, I just sent it, the strategic plan with the mid-year update that we did, I don't know, last month, to you all. And I can certainly put the vision on the agenda. That's not a problem at all. But we are in the process of redoing that because we have completed most of the things on that.
So updating it to have more things on it, basically.
Well, yeah, and to say where do we want to go next? Where do we want to go from here? And we got quite a lot of feedback from the community and as well as students. And well, we are in the process of getting student feedback. I mean, I put a link to the process in the central office report for the strategic.
That's the survey.
Did that work? Because I had problems with that.
The survey? I got a lot of.
The link.
Oh gosh, I hope it did.
Right.
If it didn't, then I will.
Might be my browser, but
I'll send you the process so you have it. And it's posted online. We have a strategic planning webpage now too, that we're starting to put things up on. So yeah, so we're working on it and we're recalibrating for sure as we come out of COVID here.
But I like the idea of having the vision on the agenda.
That's not a
Just
problem.
remind us what it even is.
Because I think the intent, well, I mean, we'll see what comes out of the committees, but I think the intent is to not change the mission or vision. It's to change, the goals underneath, or reassess those. Because we did get some interesting survey results about what people care about in the community. And it might be different from what people think.
And how's our return rate so far?
Pretty good. I'll have to look at the actual. Walt, do you remember? Sorry, not to put you on the
So,
spot.
top of my head, I want to say the parent guardian one is 128, 130. Staff was 64, 65, somewhere in that territory.
Thanks, yeah.
128, is that high, 128, 130? I mean, not comparative to the number of
Give or
parents.
take
don't get me wrong.
probably 10 to 15% of the people that went out to, and generally with surveys, if you're in the 20% ballpark, it's kind of the norm, for lack of a better term.
And I would say for board,
Board, I believe, was 8.
we had 8 board members fill it out.
So parents,
But some of the board members filled out the parent one,
Correct.
so there's some cross pollination there.
That number is much lower.
Oh, you did both? Peter did both.
yeah,
Like-
I only did one of them.
here.
You said them
No,
both. so we
I know.
vote.
It's the same thing on
I did it.
I know, right?
Two slight differences.
No, Julie sent me a text, do I have to do both? So.
Right. 'Cause I didn't know if you wanted the same thing twice. I don't know if that
Yeah,
would skew everything
yeah.
to have the same thing
No,
twice.
so it's tricky, but we are going to start to have conversations at the board meetings around the progress of that group. And some of you signed up to be on the community group. So an email will be going out later this week about the date of that focus group, which is going to be April 5th. So.
So like when the community survey or the parent survey is how is our assessment in dealing with that data going to be handled this time? Last time there were, we got like a 7 or 8 bullet points of what the survey results were, and that's as far as it went.
I believe the survey results are all online on the webpage right now.
Right, but people want to see some results from it, is what I'm saying, in the community.
Okay.
That's,
Results
then-
of the survey?
of the survey, yes,
What do you mean? Say that again, like us to do something with it or,
yes.
right,
Or
but
at
some of
least let
those,
people know that they were heard,
oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because
But I also
couple
think
people have said
sometimes
that
there's a lot of contradictory, opinions contradict each other, so not everyone's going to obviously get.
Right, everybody's not going
want.
to get what they want, but it didn't seem like a lot of information. Like there was.
From
a
which,
lot of
5
action.
years ago?
No, I'm talking like a year, 2 years ago.
Oh, are you talking about the COVID response? Because we didn't do a survey on the vision
Yeah.
2 years ago. That would
I'll
have
look
been
back
5
through my
years
meeting
ago.
Notes and look at
Yeah.
that. But the other thing too is we're talking about the strategic plan. As I recall looking, there were a lot of goals as far as, students increasing, test scores increasing by 5% over the next 2 years or so. How is that going to be affected with our new assessment tool?
Are you talking about the STAR
Yeah,
360?
right.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it could be, but I think we have to have a conversation about that because what was interesting in the parent and staff surveys is a large number of people didn't think assessment scores were important. So I think we need to have a conversation about that. It was pretty interesting to me. And a large percentage of the community does not buy into them and think they're important. So,
wow.
So I think we have to have a conversation about the values and how we're going to hold people accountable and a large portion of our parents do not want their kids to go to college necessarily. So I think we need to step back and look at that data and really have some hard conversations about that and make sure we're not all projecting our values on the community. I don't know.
Well, I think that, that's been one of the things that has been talked about, is that not every kid needs to go to college. That, our goal, I mean, it's been mentioned a few times and I don't know how we get there, but that every kid should graduate with a plan of what they're going to do.
Right.
Should they
Absolutely.
be ready for college or should they be ready for career? And, unfortunately, the career part, we're really limited by how many kids can go to Stafford, what programs are being offered. Is there a way of getting some of these kids more into some kind of work study? Those are conversations for down the road.
Yeah.
It seems like unfortunately, we get bogged down in putting out fires too much and not enough time spent on just discussing education. And I mean, I get it, as a board, we're the ones that have to make those decisions about, what are we going to fix and where's the money coming from? But we also need to figure out what do we need to do to help some of these kids so that when they get out of here, they've got the ability to hold down a job and to, go ahead and do very well because, a lot of these kids entering the trades, their earning potential is much greater than some of the kids graduating from college.
Correct.
And so there's nothing for anybody to be ashamed about for entering the trades.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can put it on the agenda next meeting and we can go over the survey results. I mean, what you're going to see is, I think, when Casey, when did you share the Vsac survey results? Probably in November?
October.
Close. You're going to see a similar pattern to what you saw in the Vsac survey. Widespread, where you have a large portion of our community that, doesn't necessarily care if their children go to college, or that's not necessarily what they want for their child. And so I think they need to graduate with a plan for sure. And anybody who wants to go to college should be able to go. but that's not the end all be all. And so I think we need to really adjust some of our goals and thinking about the values of the community. And we are enhancing the work-based learning. You know, there's a position in the budget, you know, that is one of our goals. I mean, part of our struggle is we can't find people to fill the positions. So that's part of the struggle. You know, we talk about guidance. We only have 2 guidance counselors here this year, not 3, because we can't find a third. You know, so it's not for lack of trying and not for lack of having the goals. There's a resource, there's a capacity issue too. So, and that's something that's happening in, you know, schools across the country. So it's not just here. So.
I mean, are we still requiring algebra for everybody to graduate?
No.
No.
Okay.
All right, so, we are in the midst of other business. Julie brought up a good point
Well, we
about
ended up
just,
exactly what I was talking about, was talking about the end result of students and how we're spending our money to get there.
Right.
So that's exactly what I was heading towards.
You're quiet. I'll just add one thing, Tim. You know, throughout the conversation, there's a lot of terms used. One of them that's frequently, I didn't hear, but that is used often is districts creating what a profile of a graduate is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But that really usually comes, and I'm looking at a bunch of them online. I mean, I was a part of one in Middlebury before I came. Typically what they look at like are what you set for your mission, and then how it is you're going to get kids to that mission. So it talks about kids meeting and exceeding standards, being college and career ready, being, I think we have positively contributing global citizens or something. So it's really, how are you doing that? And so what are your systems and structures that you have kids that are required to move through? And then what are kind of the buffet of options that get them to those places? And so I think you have the pieces. It's just a matter of what is the board going to focus energies around to make certain that those, when you get to the conversations like you just had, are prioritized. And so you're not at a place where you're sacrificing those based on what it is you've developed as a set of goals for students as they work towards your mission.
Can I just add one more comment?
Yeah.
Here? One of the comments that I think Peter made earlier was we can't keep cutting our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully agree with that. But in this looking at our strategic plan and where we want to go, you know, if we can put that vision out that people see that, you know, we're going to pay the money it takes to get that third guidance counselor
Mm-hmm.
and that whatever enhancer vocational training,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I would vote for a budget that's $1 million more if we're going to do those things. So, I mean, that's something we should be thinking about when we start this budgeting process, you know, next fall.
that's exactly what I'm thinking too. I mean, how do we like shift up from this baseline norm of just flatlining our expenditures and really starting to make investments in improving the product, offering more programming and services? I guess my question, Cheryl, can you piece things out of a budget? I mean, can you have like, this is our expenditure, roll forward, flatline budget, and now just much like you vote on a transfer to the capital surplus fund, can you vote on the Casey O'Meara amendment where there's a $300,000 ask? Where there's a $300,000 ask where we're going to bring in X, Y, and Z program, and these are the goals, and this is the expected outcome, or we're going to have a $200,000 Ben Worthing amendment where we're going to revamp our guidance department and have career and college preparedness. I mean, can you piece things out like that?
In terms of a vote?
Yeah, and how you warn things.
Well, no, not exactly. Each one of those would have to be a separate article, and then you would have to incorporate, right now, as the way the law is written, you would have to incorporate that if this article were to pass, this is the amount of education spending per equalized pupil, and it's a % increase. And if this were to pass, it would be this. And the problem is, I don't know the extent that you can do that because it's not an a la carte kind of system. So I don't.
I'd have to
think
do
that
some
would-
more research.
I don't think it would
we did
work
it in
right.
Mill River when I was there, but it was.
Because let's say, because if the law requires that it has the education spending per equalized pupil and the percent increase, and you've got like, well, if this one passes and this one doesn't, what is that
Yeah.
information that needs to be on the warning? So.
And do you feel confident we're gonna have the weighting results at some point this summer?
Do I feel confident? No. Anything that involves the legislature, I don't feel confident in necessarily. I do think going into the next budget, the FY24 budget, I do think the weighting study will be helpful to us. I do think there probably will be a delay of Act 173 too, which will actually help us. It will increase our revenue in this current budget. It's just we're not projecting that right now because the delay hasn't been officially
That's
announced.
special ed.
Special ed.
Funding, whole.
The
Yeah, funding.
All changes in the funding system.
But I do think, I'm part of the trustees for the Vermont Superintendents Association, and I do think there are going to be some rough fiscal times ahead in the state of Vermont with education. And the next, it's projected to get a lot worse than what we've currently experienced. So I do think some tough decisions are going to need to be made moving forward. I don't know what that looks like, but in order to have more, we may have to reorganize ourselves somehow. So I think it's going to be really, really difficult. The meeting I came from Friday painted a pretty bleak picture about education funding in the next 5 years in the state. So, and the fact that we're losing population, that we have too many schools, we're not going to be able to afford it as a state. So I don't think it's going to get easier.
All right, Brooke, on that note, my gosh.
Sorry, was I too honest?
Jeez.
I just don't think it's going to get easier.
All right, well, I guess moving off this, just real quickly, other business, again, we have vacancies. There are 2 vacancies, West Haven, 1 vacancy, Hubbardton, 1 vacancy, Benson for school board members. I believe you've already advertised for those positions. And in terms of other administrative functions, I guess I'd just like to introduce Dawn, right? Custer?
Yes.
She's our new treasurer, taking the place of Suzanne from Fairhaven.
On July
1st.
Yep.
Okay. So we're still looking for a clerk who was previously Liz McKay, and then also a moderator, previously Seal Hunt. No one ran for those positions and no one received sufficient write-ins to earn that seat. So we do have some vacancies. Those are advertised for as well, the clerk and the moderator.
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe Liz intends to submit a letter for clerk.
Yeah. All right, any other business? Is there a need for an executive session?
No,
No?
just a reminder, we have teacher negotiations Thursday night
Are we meeting early?
at 6 o'clock. Yep.
Okay, agenda building, our next meeting is the 28th. Anything come to mind of note?
Well, I think budget communication. I think strategic planning, I can talk a little bit more about the process and the plan. And you probably, no, we don't have teacher contracts, so because all those contracts or letters of intent have to go out by April 1st, but you don't have actual contracts to approve, so I guess, so nothing.
So what's the timeline for Brooks evaluation? Is that, you guys gonna have a meeting on that?
Did you want to volunteer your services? You're survey savvy?
I'm happy to look at whatever you guys put together and put it through the people I know at the polling institute, make sure it's a survey that's gonna
Well,
actually
I'll think
garner
about it tomorrow.
responses.
I'll put together the first email and invite everyone to establish that first meeting.
Okay.
I'll include you on that.
Okay.
So I guess with that said, there's nothing else. Is there?
I don't know, Brooke, I mean, can we, I know at least in Orwell, when we've done some of this like listening type stuff in person, we've had our biggest turnouts.
Yep.
And is that something that if the 3 board members from Orwell, wanted to sit down with, some night and just say, hey, come in and talk to us?
Yeah,
Is that something that we can do
sure.
prior to this budget so that hopefully we can get some feedback to
Yeah,
come back? And I'm hopeful that if we did something like that, we might generate more than 1 or 2 people to get some feedback. Because the more feedback that we can get, the easier it is for us to make decisions. And really to try to just streamline stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I don't think anybody really feels really touchy-feely warm about our discussions that we had tonight over the, how to revote this budget. And I just wish it was a whole lot simpler. And I think if that'll work for Orwell, it may not work for everybody, but I think that at least for Orwell, that does seem to work better than some of the online stuff. And I'm willing to devote the time to try to get people where we can talk to them, and just say, what can we do?
Give them a meal allowance. They'll spend a few $1,000s and buy everyone lunch,
No, I'd rather,
Well,
I'd rather. put
I know
towards
that
some
there's many
building
of us in
That's right, we
central
get
office
criticized for
too that are volunteering to go to different establishments around town, talk to people, and even we're gonna be talking in our admin meeting, but some of us are actually gonna knock on doors in the community and have conversations with families, and I'm gonna expect our administration to do the same thing. So, they don't know that yet. Well, now they do, but, so we're gonna be talking about that. So I'm fine if that's something that you just wanna set up, and I'm happy to help in any way I can in each town.
I mean, can us 3 give you a date and you send it out to
Yeah.
the proper people?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I think it will work better with, I don't know about other towns, but with Orwell, if it's just Orwell, I think you'll get more people to come talk to us 3 than.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember, I think one of the first ones that we did and COVID was just happening, and we did it out on the green so that people could be
Yep.
spaced.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people there. And when we go to the online stuff,
Yeah.
the participation just drops right off. And I think we need to, at least with the Orwell community, we need to get back to a face-to-face discussions.
Well, I think as a whole, we need to get back to face. That's part of the problem.
All right, if nothing else, we
Can I add one more thing?
Sure. Wait, there's more.
While we're brainstorming, it's a great idea, Glenn. But as I'm looking at the schedule of meetings for this year, okay, we go around to the different elementary schools, and I'm assuming Fairhaven and Castleton have their own Facebook pages. When we're going to be at a school, I mean, can the principals should put the meeting out on their Facebook page
Yep.
and invite
Yep, we
parents
do.
and community. You do, okay.
Yep.
Does anything go home with kids? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
It does.
Yep, it's in the newsletter.
It's in the bottom of their, it's in the bottom of their.
On a big sign.
Okay. So that's what gets pulled out of the backpack at the end of the year.
Yes, yes.
Never mind.
All right.
Yeah, welcome any ideas anybody has.
No.
Why did everything get packed up?
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Traffic's still on.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Somebody still